Welcome, guys. My name is Leonardo. I work at Avenue Code, and today I'm gonna talk about the MVC framework, EmberJS. For our agenda today, we're going to talk about who uses Ember and a bit on the concepts about naming conventions, talk about templates, routing, objects, models, controllers, views, and finally I will sum up with a figure that shows the workflow happening inside Ember. The background knowledge that I would like you to have to better understand this meeting is a knowledge in HTML, JavaScript. I would like you to know handlebars template and some MVC knowledge as well. We also have a jQuery dependence on Ember, but I will not focus on that in this presentation. Okay, talking a little about the history of EmberJS, it was born in 2011 as a renaming after the project Sprout Core when it reaches the 2.0 version. And this Sprout Core was developed by, between other companies, the Apple company. So the main guys ahead of the project are Yehuda Katz, that works with jQuery, Ruby on Rails, and many of these technologies that we use today, and Tom Dale, which happens to have the hamster on his icon on Twitter. So, apart from that, we have big companies using EmberJS like Yahoo, Groupon, and Zendesk. So let's move on. About the concepts that Ember complies is naming conventions. EmberJS has a strong naming conventions, and as you can see, when we access a URL that ends with a slash avenue code, Ember automatically infer a template name avenue code, a root object called avenue code route, a controller that behaves the same way with controller on the end of the name, and a view that behaves the same way. Okay, talking about templates, and by template I mean handlebars, which is the default template engine for Ember.js. Handlebars have an active community. It has a bunch of helpers like link to that makes an anchor, uh, each that allows the loops, and if that allows conditional handling, and many others. So in the snippet of code, we can see that we can put our variable name being output to the client side when we reach the index route. When we deal with handlebars, we have two ways of organizing our code. We can put lots of that script tags that we see on the earlier slide all over the HTML file, which is going to be too much when we deal with large projects. But we can also rely on template precompiling by dividing those template files into .hbs files. Another cool concept about EmberJS is the outlet reserved expression, which places a template when we go to a route, to a specific route. So in the snippet, we can see that we have a sort of a global scope for the application data template name. And when we reach the /about root, we will render the h1 tag inside the application script. For those who are familiar with Ruby, outlet stands for the same behaviors as yield. Okay, moving forward for the next concept about routing. Routing on Ember.js works as a map for the URLs and templates, providing the correct path for each. As the template or model change, the URL can stay up to date. This also means the URL becomes independent and shareable. So mainly, we have three objects when we talk about routing. The router, which is the map that encapsulates routes and resources together. Resources can also group routes together to make nested routes. And the routes are the endpoints, which tells the templates which model to display. Uh, Other cool features about routing include path alias, which makes your code look one way to the client on the URL, and you can treat it the way you want inside your framework. Dynamic segments, when you have a list of things and you have them ordered by ID or something like that, and you can dynamically load each ID with dynamic segments. And EmberJS relies strongly on convention over configuration. So if you don't generate the parts of code that Ember needs, it will boilerplate everything for you. So let's take a look on the code for a bit. On the second line, we have the simplest route, which for convention is creating a /about route. On the next, we have a nested route. This we'll call posts/new. And on the sixth line, on the line 6, we have the dynamic segment example by a post/the ID that's going to be loaded. Below, we have the root, post root object, and the model is mapping inside the store, which can be local storage or REST API, and it's retrieving the ID of that post model. On the comment in green, we can see that we can also mock static data to pass from the model to the route in the whole application. Even below, we have the setup controller, which we can set any controller that we like for this route. Also worth to mention that this model snippet of code is not necessary because Ember generates that automatically for you as it is default. Okay, moving on, we'll talk a little bit about objects inside Ember.js. Let me go directly to the first snippet where we declare a person class and we are extending an object from Ember. That's basically everything that you want to create. You're gonna extend in Ember.js. So we have a hello world function that's going to fire an alert, and with the this get name, I'm retrieving the property name inside person. So next we create an instance of this person class and assign a name called Leonardo. And when the the instance call its function, it will fire an alert with, "Hi, my name is Leonardo Vasconcelos." Pretty straightforward. So Ember also has a bunch of helpers that helps you validate and accept only the data that you want to have. On the first line, we have the rejects, and on the second, we have a constraint that will only accept ages greater than 18, and many others. We can look forward on the guides further. Okay, next concept is about computer properties. Computer properties watch changes on object fields. It updates the resulting property dynamically. These two snippets of code makes uh, the same behavior, but the first, the property is extending the JS function. In the second, we have the Ember computed to work with computed properties. Uh, so imagine that we have a first name and a last name attribute inside the object that we declare, and we are composing the full name with these other two attributes. We can also chain watches and updates if we have a full log of the person which relies in full name. It will stack up and update everything. Another feature that is inside most frameworks and Ember as well is observers, which are default synchronous watchers, and they fire whenever a change happens. So I put the same snippet twice just so you can see that you can declare the observer in many ways. And whenever bird or cloud changes, it will fire alert containing wow what a view. So if both change, we'll fire this alert twice. And we can also declare observers outside class definition with the addObserver function. Moving forward, we also have bindings in EmberJS. Bindings are links between two properties. So when one updates, so does the other. Bindings can happen with any pair of objects. So in the code that I'm showing you here, we have a wife that has a household income of 80,000. And when we use Ember computed alias to bind the wife household income with the husband household income, we bind those two variables together. So it all looks pretty much closer to each other, but I would like to point out that there are differences between these three concepts. On computed properties, we are trying to build a new property by synthesizing other properties. It should not contain application behavior, and multiple calls should always return the same value. About observers, it should contain behavior that reacts to the changes in another property. And the bindings are used to ensure that objects are always in synchronization. Okay, let me talk a little bit about models. And by models, I would like to introduce the concept of Ember data as well, which is currently on beta version, but it's widely used on the community and seems to be a good alternative to fill up models and data. And Ember data is what allows us to use that DS object that we are using on the snippet. It also allows us to have a sort of a typing constraint to our attributes. So models are classes that defines properties and behaviors of data, and this data might appear in all sections. We also can describe relationships with other objects, such as we do here with books and genres. On the book object, we have the genre attribute, which is defined to belong to the genre object. And inside the genre model object, we have the attribute books, which is defined as has many book model inside the books attribute. This is defining a one-to-many relationship when one genre has many books. But we could also describe a one-to-one relationship by calling the belongs to function on each side of the relationship, and a many-to-many relationship by calling the has many on each side. Okay, talking a bit about data inside models, I'd like to point out that we have a bunch of ways to access data, such as the hard-coded data inside the root objects that I told on the root section. We have also local storage, which is widely spread by other frameworks, but I would like to focus my attention on the fixtures and the RESTful JSON API method. Okay, the new concept of fixtures inside EmberJS is that you can mock the data without a backend. So we simply add an adapter to our application adapter and create a model as we should do anyway. And then we add some hard-coded data on the fixtures array. We have to remind that it requires the ID property because with fixtures we are mocking the RESTful API, but without having it on the backend. And finally, if we want to use a REST API, we can determine the URL based on names, on model names. Here I have a different adapter, which is the REST adapter, and we can plug into our URL things like host and namespace, which will go before your request to the server. So on the final build of this REST request, it will be the host followed by the namespace and then the model and the ID that you want to retrieve. And in the last line, we have a request that is trying to find a user with the ID 1 and a callback function as well. Oh, yeah. Moving forward to controllers. Controllers handle non-persistent logic and deals with data for just the session that you're working in. It wraps the model. It should hold the functions, the properties, and the observers. And we have three types of controllers inside EmberJS. The object controllers wraps a single model. The array controller wraps an array of models. And the simple controller, which name is just controller, that doesn't wrap any model. Okay, let's talk a little bit about actions. All action handlers are wrapped in one object called actions, which you can see on the code below inside the controller. This is an Ember convention for keeping code organized. So down here on the handlebars template, we fire the action to create a review. And we have that action wrapped up in the actions object inside the controller. Okay, let me tell a bit about views, which is not often needed because we have handlebars template, which is very powerful inside EmberJS. But we do need views when we deal with event handling and components. We also have a lot of hooks inside the views uh, due to the, I mean, these hooks reminds me a lot of the days that I spent working with Object-C and iOS stuff because the names are very similar, like did insert element, will destroy element. Here we have the template name which binds to the data template name say hello, and this is currently outputting hello bar. About event handling, we have bunch of handlings like click, mouse enter, mouse leave, etc. And a view can call an action from the controller, and if there's no action there, it will bubble up to the route. So this is a feature of Ember about bubbling up. If you don't find an action in your controller, you can search for an action inside your route object. So here we happen to trigger the click event and send the turn it up action. And when we look in the controller, we find it. But if it was not there, we should look inside the playback route object. A little word on components. It's meant to do not repeat yourself, so we can clean up multiple code with the same behavior and create reusable script modules. Here we want to put an image in various parts of our code, and we are reusing it inside the data template name book. And you can see that we have components slash before the name that we assigned to this component, which is a naming convention as well. So, to sum up all these concepts, I would like to point out that when we access a website, we are generally making a request to the root by the URL. So the root can handle model loading, it can set the model inside the controller, it can render the view, and the controller will set the state whichever on the view or the template. And the view uh, is responsible for making the template to render. Okay, my final thoughts on this. I would like to say that Ember is indicated to a quick start because no boilerplates are needed. We have organized code with due to naming conventions. As I said, I didn't enter in lots of details of handlebars because there's so much you can use on it. Um, Persistence handling is very easy. You can just change an adapter and you're good to go with a new approach. And we have also helpful object APIs as well. So these are the references that I used to build my presentation. You should check that out. On this first Ember, guys, we have massive content that you should look after if you want to play with Ember. And on the Learn More, we have blogs, we have talks with the header developers of Ember.js, and also some Avenue Code talks to explain more what I didn't deepen enough on this presentation. So just a little challenge for you guys to get your brain work. Build a to-do app using Ember.js. Please use different types of data storage. And by that, I mean local storage, fixtures, whatever you like. Improve your layout with handlebar helpers and go after handlebars guides because it's very powerful inside Ember.js. Here's a link to the tutorial and send me your solution using the GitHub repository. That's it. I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching.